This is my review of the Memaloose State Park Campground in the Scenic Columbia River Gorge. The Columbia River divides Washington and Oregon all the way over toward Umatilla, Oregon, and then it turns north into Washington and meets up with the Snake River. Memaloose State Park is located on the Oregon side of the Columbia River in a section called the Scenic Columbia River Gorge. This extends from Troutdale, Oregon, which is just about 18 miles east of downtown Portland, to a town called The Dalles, Oregon. Within that section of the river, there are 3 state campgrounds on the Oregon side. There's Ainsworth State Park, Viento State Park, and Memaloose State Park. So where you would choose to stay may depend on what you're planning to do. I think this is a bucket list item, and I would want to do both ends of the Scenic Gorge. I would stay at Ainsworth for a few days and check out the waterfalls in the area, lots of hiking trails, and the east end of the Portland metro area. Although the Ainsworth State Park has no direct access to water, very few activities. It's a very nice state park for big rigs. It has 43 full hookup sites, and 24 of them are pull-through for big rigs. It's a really nice place to stop over and see the waterfall areas of the gorge. If you're into windsurfing, sailboarding, things like that, Viento State Park is really a nice place. It has direct water access. Unfortunately, the spots are a little tough to get into for big rigs. Lots of trees, not as long as at Ainsworth or Memaloose, and there is no sewer connections at any site. So as you head east beyond Hood River, it starts to dry out a bit. It's kind of the edge between the wet area of the gorge and the dry area of the gorge. And a result of that is some amazing flowers, wildflowers, and in the spring at Rowena Crest, it's pretty amazing. There is the Tom McCall Nature Preserve. There's a Discovery Center in the Dalles and the Memaloose Overlook. Additionally, in the Dalles, there's the Dalles Dam, which is quite interesting. If you're in town for the rodeo, Memaloose is a good place to stay. And there's all kinds of wine tasting and museums. There's a lot more to do than meets the eye. On to the review of Memaloose State Park Campground. I do like the place. It's not bad. There's a little difficulty getting in and out if you're going eastbound. If you're coming from the east, you take the exit, you go into the park, and then you continue on eastbound. But when approaching from the west, you have to pass the Memaloose rest area on the eastbound side and go on to the town of Rowena, turn around and come back to the campground exit. It's only 3 miles from the Rowena exit to the Memaloose campground, so it's a 6-mile detour. I don't find it to be a problem. It's a beautiful landscape and kind of gets you in the mood for a campground. So as you're heading back westbound and you're approaching the Memaloose rest stop exit, you wonder if that's the right one. Yes, that's the right one. You enter the campground through the rest stop. It is fairly close to the freeway, but you go down this hill and you I don't hear the noise so much, so I wouldn't worry as much about road noise as you might think. The campground is paved. The roads are paved as well as the spots. There's 2 distinct loops. There's the A loop, which is mostly for tents. I've seen some small trailers and pop-ups pull in there, but there is no electric or sewer. A few of them have water at the site. If it's not at the site, it's within walking distance to get water. But you're not going to be able to just hook up at every single spot. The B Loop has 44 full hookup sites, sewer, water, electric. Not all of them are, super modern like an RV park, but you can usually make things fit and work. Almost all the sites are big rig capable. There's a couple that are only 40 and 41 feet, but on the average, they're at least 49 and 50 feet, and so you can get a pretty big rig in there. You might have to park your truck next to your fifth wheel, but most travel trailers and RVs will make it in any spot. So obviously the premium spots are the ones down by the river, and you will have to reserve those quite early in the year to get one. The advantage of them, beyond having the view, is that they're further away from the road. I couldn't hear any road noise down here by the river. What are the premium spots? Well, that's always subject to your opinion. In my opinion, it's the ones closest to the river with a view. They are closest to the railroad tracks, so there is a bit of noise, but it is just the most spectacular view. And what you're there for is to see the Columbia River Gorge, and boy, do you get to see it. We chose site B31, which in my opinion is the best site on the property. We did have a little trouble with the threads on the water faucet, and there was a little overgrown brush around. There was some blackberries behind us, but the view made up for any inadequacies in the groundskeeping. So here's the advantages of being in those premium spots by the river. Take a few steps toward the river and do a panorama, and this is what you see. It's pretty majestic, this Columbia River, and these 5 spots that I pointed out have this view, so I think it's probably the best choice. So in the B-Loop there are also tent sites near the bathrooms, and they're just kind of in a big grassy field. There's not a lot of privacy there, but it's pretty clean and away from wild animals. So what about water access? Well, there's no legal way to get to the water. The railroad put a fence up and no trespassing signs, and the state parks do publish on their webpage that there is no legal water access. However, after scouting around a bit, there was some clear trails, and people obviously go down there. So we hiked around a little bit and found a little pathway along the fence, and lo and behold, we came upon a part of the fence that had been squashed down a little bit, and people had been climbing over it. So we walked up and down the railroad tracks for a bit and found a couple of neat spots. We settled on a little lagoon type space that wasn't very deep and was kind of warm, so that was pretty cool. There was another spot that looked like it had a little diving rock. I think lots of people come down here and hang out. Little cautionary tale here: when you're walking down the railroad tracks, you should probably turn around and look. It's not always trains coming down the track. We ran into a railroad worker in his truck coming down the tracks. He didn't say anything to us for being on the tracks. Another thing was keep an eye out for wildlife. We did run into a bobcat. I did talk to the park ranger about the bobcat, and they're friendly. They just like the squirrels. In summary, I would say this is a pretty cool place to go if you have something to do in the Dalles or Hood River. As far as it being a destination with things to do, I'm not sure that fits well. Regarding the bathrooms and utilities and wood supply and things like that, it's as standard as any other state park. I don't find anything special or bad about it. I hope this review helped you out. I hope you come visit Oregon. It's an awesome place. I think the Columbia River is a must-see, and you can't just drive through. You got to stop and take it in. So this is a good place to take in the east end of the Scenic Gorge. Until next time, happy trails.